Envision, over a period of 200 years, being one of tens of thousands of Africans who were kidnapped and chained against their will, then being forced and crammed aboard sailing ships for weeks and months at a time, and brought to America, a foreign land far, far away from home, only to be sold in slave markets. Imagine the mental suffering endured when these Africans, now in a foreign land, had to see their own family members, their loved ones, whom they knew they would never see again, alive or dead, being sold off for just a few dollars and standing there helplessly with no comfort or hope. Now close your eyes and envision the physical suffering, the daily beatings until their skin peeled off their backs, the hard labor, plowing the fields, cleaning the houses, morning until night, with absolutely no pay and no say. All because these slave owners decided that these Africans, these nobodies to them, were just a piece of property owned by a piece of paper. They were also easy prey. From the 1770s to the 1860s, slavery in the United States was a hot topic of debate. One of President Abraham Lincoln's famous quotes is, "You must remember that some things that are legally right are not morally right." Many others felt the same way, but nobody spoke so bluntly about slavery as Frederick Douglass, an escaped slave turned abolitionist who said in 1846, and I quote, "Men do not go into slavery naturally. They don't go into slavery at the bidding of their fellow men. They don't bow down their neck to the yoke merely by being entreated to do so. No, something else is necessary. The whip must be there, the chain must be there, the gag must be there in order to induce the slave to go to the field and labor for another man without wages." And being that Frederick Douglass was so vocal, he protested the Dred Scott decision in March 1857, where the Supreme Court ruled in Scott versus Sanford that Scott, a lifelong slave, who was claiming his freedom by running away to a free state, was still a slave. He added that the Constitution said, and I quote, "We the people, not we the white people." He added, and I quote, "Slavery lives in this country not because of any paper constitution, but in the moral blindness of the American people who persuade themselves that they are safe, though the rights of others may be struck down." Well, fast forward to today, almost 146 years later, and open your eyes. It is because of the drafting of a pertinent piece of paper, the Constitution, that I can stand before you today. The 13th Amendment was ratified on December 6, 1865, and Section 1 of the 13th Amendment states, "Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as punishment for crime, whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or in any place subject to their jurisdiction." Section 2 of the 13th Amendment states, "Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation." Before the amendment was official, President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863, after 3 bloody years of the Civil War, a war fought between the southern and northern states, with the southern states trying to maintain slavery, while the northern states were trying to end it. Yes, slavery was an ugly injustice from the past that we as Americans usually do not like to relive or revisit. But thankfully, that pertinent piece of paper, the Constitution of the United States of America, made it possible that it would never, rear its ugly head again. This is just one example of how and why the Constitution is so important. It is important to us all. Just imagine those founding fathers all huddled together in one room, knowing that they were there for one purpose: to create the law of the land. And in doing that, they started by writing the preamble, which states, "We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States of America." The Constitution is loaded with 7 articles and 27 amendments, with the first 10 amendments, the Bill of Rights, being adopted in 1791. In Article 5, in order to amend the Constitution, both houses of Congress must approve the amendment by a 2/3 vote in each house and ratify it by 3/4 of the state legislators. Or, an amendment may be proposed by Congress and ratified by conventions called for that purpose. There is no set time limit on the ratification process. However, the Constitution states that it must be reasonable. Well, imagine in 1789 having Amendment 27, which limits congressional pay raises, proposed, and not ratified until 200 years later in 1992. Gregory Watson, a college student in 1982, a regular citizen like you and me, was writing a term paper for his government class and discovered that Amendment 27 was still on the table, and if enough states ratified it, that it would become part of the Constitution. Reasonable time? Well, it took 10 years from the time of Mr. Watson's discovery in 1982 to officially get Amendment 27 ratified in 1992. Gregory Watson went on a one-man crusade, referencing Article 5, amending constitutions, writing to state legislators, and finally getting someone to listen and take action. It is our civic obligation to understand the workings of our government and to give of our time. It is expected that we go out and vote, though so many of us throw that privilege away. It is our duty to pay taxes and respect the rights of others. Our forefathers wanted that for us. They paved the way so that we could take the baton and run with it. So many of us complain about the 3 forms of government, the legislative, the executive, the judicial, but we do nothing. We've got to take action. So many of us stand by and wait for the Gregory Watsons of the world to get things done. Yes, I stand before you today on the welted backs of my ancestors who allowed me to stand firmly in my beliefs, my hopes, and my dreams, and I will never take that for granted. I believe as American citizens, we need to free ourselves from the shackles of all the ugly injustices of the past, whether provoked or endured by our ancestors, and to carry with us in our hearts and souls the only pertinent piece of paper that really matters: the Constitution of the United States of America. Thank you.